Welcome back to the thrilling crime-solving journey of Xu Qi'an in the Nightwatcher, Chapter 65. A Rare Talent. Li Yuxuan sat regally on a chair beside the bathing tub, nodding thoughtfully. These insights are invaluable. When you have the time, head to the Library of Hidden Tomes for more. But for now, since I'm here with you, let's dive right in. To the best of your understanding, is the first grade the highest level of cultivation? Xu Qi'an nodded. The grading within major cultivation systems is often rather vague. There are no clear standards. It wasn't until the Saint Sage age that he divided the cultivation system into 9 grades. A classification that persists to this day. However, the Saint Sage did not consider himself within this grading system. Why is that? Xu Qi'an asked. Let me finish my explanation first. Li Yuxuan continued. Beyond the Saint Sage, 4 others stand outside the ranks: the ancient deity, the war deity, the Taoist patriarch, and the Buddha. These figures are blessed with eternal lifetimes, never to decline. At this, Xu Qi'an began to grasp the concept. So the gods and Buddhas do not fit into the grading system? Wait. Do they really exist? Li Yuxuan shook his head. The details are murky at best. Xu Qi'an paused, then speculated. I've heard the Saint Sage only lived to 82 years. If we take what you said as truth, he should have achieved immortality. Thus, there must be some exaggeration in that. Li Yuxuan could not answer, as he also lacked knowledge in this area. Throughout history, legends of immortal beings had been fervently passed down, and the quest for immortality remained the lifelong aspiration of many emperors. But how many dared claim to have encountered an immortal? Other cultivation systems possess transcendent entities. However, martial practitioners do not. In martial arts, the first grade is the pinnacle. Li Yuxuan redirected the conversation. Therefore, many believe martial arts to be a rather crude system. Xu Qi'an suddenly noticed an inconsistency. Wait a minute, the Tai Tianjian sorcerers are excluded from that. Li Yuxuan nodded. True, but it cannot be denied that within the various systems, sorcerers contribute the most. Xu Qi'an was aware that a 9th-grade sorcerer served as a healer, working miracles for the injured. A 7th-grade sorcerer was an expert in feng shui, making crucial decisions about burial sites for both commoners and nobility, arranging the architecture and furniture of their homes. The 6th-grade sorcerers were adept metallurgists, spurring society's progress, vital contributors to the industry and craftsmanship of this era. Tong Khan, a classmate, was a prodigy among them, dedicating his efforts to the pursuit of human-beast integration. Xu Qi'an felt he had entered this world too soon. Had he waited a few more decades, he might have been able to author a manual entitled Guide to Analyzing and Commenting on Cross-Species Customs. Besides that, he knew that the Tai Tianjian sorcerers were also responsible for renewals and the establishment of the imperial calendar. In an agrarian civilization, the calendar was of utmost importance, directly impacting harvests. Compared to other systems, sorcerers indeed stood as paragons of service to the people, contributing significantly to the advancement of civilization. I am starting to feel some pain, Xu Qi'an said, furrowing his brow. The medicinal solution seeped into his pores like countless tiny needles pricking his body with discomfort. That's to be expected, it's detoxifying, Li Yuxuan replied. After another incense stick burns down, you may feel as if you're being torn apart. That's when I'll unlock the celestial gate for you. You can talk to distract yourself, he encouraged. Xu Qi'an nodded. So, our emperor has devoted more than 20 years to cultivation, seeking immortality. It was common knowledge that the current sovereign revered a stunning Taoist priestess as a national sage, dedicating years to the pursuit of the Tao. Some writers had even humorously chronicled the romantic endeavors of the emperor and the stunning priestess, only to meet a disastrous end at the hands of the divine beast. But even if martial practitioners lack transcendent beings, surely they can extend their lifespans. One could simply focus on martial training without chasing after that elusive immortality. Xu Qi'an reasoned. Li Yuxuan shot back. How long did it take you to reach the refining essence stage? 17 years, Xu Qi'an replied, having been stuck at the pinnacle of refining essence for the past 2 years. A bit slow, isn't it? Li Yuxuan remarked. Elite disciples from wealthy families often reach the refining essence pinnacle by around 16, factoring in physical maturation. Some peak by 15. But those elite disciples may struggle to enter the Qi transformation stage, as not everyone possesses the willpower to navigate the allure of beauty laid before them every day. The more extravagant one's life, the easier it is to get lost in superficial pleasures. Meanwhile, the refining essence stage is merely the beginning of martial arts. Just imagine how difficult it is to reach a higher grade and extend one's lifespan. I understand. That lady from the Puhu family will undoubtedly scold me one day for being less than beastly. Tonight, I'll show her what true enlightenment is. Xu Qi'an thought with sympathy. The original host had been a martial arts enthusiast. Known for his stubbornness and focus on the minutiae, these qualities allowed him to diligently train daily, laying a robust foundation for his martial journey. Thus, he had to struggle against his own hands each day, keeping those reliable tools at bay. Had it been Xu Qi'an, he wasn't certain he would have been able to endure for so many years, always resisting the instinct to indulge in beauty. Though men typically think with their heads, there are times when what lies below can override sensibility. Time drifted on, and Xu Qi'an's animated chatter gradually dwindled, despite his continued interest in cultivation knowledge. His brow creased deeper, the pain reaching unbearable levels. That should be enough. The medicine's purpose is to stimulate your body, awakening the dormant energy within. Li Yuxuan stood and placed a hand on Xu Qi'an's head, speaking solemnly. Unlocking the celestial gate is a formidable task. If your innate talent is high, I can guide your energy through 3 cycles, and you will begin to tap into your inner power. And if someone has poor talent? Xu Qi'an asked, worry creeping into his voice. The poorer the talent, the more cycles are needed. Normally, a person can undergo this process a maximum of 9 times. If by the 8th cycle, your energy hasn't manifested, you're simply unsuited for the path of martial arts. Li Yuxuan paused. I eagerly anticipate your innate potential. With that, he closed his eyes, falling silent. Suddenly, Xu Qi'an felt a warm energy pouring down from the Beihui point at the top of his head, saturating his core and coursing through his limbs and bones. It seemed as though his body instinctively memorized the flow of this energy. And after just 1 cycle, it began to activate on its own, circulating freely. Li Yuxuan's eyes widened as he stared at the young man in the bath. Xu Qi'an stared back, bemused. This feels surprisingly simple. Li Yuxuan could only respond, try circulating a few more cycles and let me see. After completing 3 cycles, Xu Qi'an opened his eyes. Without a mirror, he couldn't see the subtle changes that had occurred since his advancement to Qi transformation. First, his eyes sparkled even more brightly, glittering like distant stars. Just that single change elevated his allure significantly. Next, his demeanor grew more stable and composed, like the deep waters of tranquil mountains. Finally, his skin after soaking in the medicated solution gained a flush. The impurities trapped within his pores vanished, leaving his complexion remarkably soft and radiant. Feeling a fresh surge of strength within, Xu Qi'an stretched his limbs and struck out at the window. With a crash, the glass shattered. His cultivated energy burst forth, a manifestation of his newfound ability from the early Qi transformation stage. Had he possessed a blade or sword, he might have been able to unleash a cutting edge of energy. Of course, the power wouldn't be overwhelming. He had just begun this stage. A peak Qi transformation expert could slice through walls with a single swing, wielding control over objects from a distance. Very good, Li Yuxuan remarked, his face betraying no emotion, though he nodded slightly. Continue circulating your energy. This methodology will strengthen your essence. Do not neglect your physical training as well. With that, he exited the hidden chamber. Just as he stepped out, Li Yuxuan's mind echoed with 3 words: impossible. Turning, he gazed at the shattered window, his expression stiff. A rare talent. How could it be this easy to identify? The assessment of his potential was complete, and he needed to seek out Ji Yuyi to inquire about the evaluation. If he had achieved a breakthrough after just 1 cycle, it would merit a distinction of top grade. In that case, the resources assigned to him would increase accordingly. If he garners a top grade, he will likely be promoted to upper grade. This is the caliber of a golden boy, making him a prime candidate for mentorship from the Ascendant clan. Well, but he hasn't yet undergone the battle strength assessment, which means he can't be classified as upper grade. I'm just overthinking it. Exiting the courtyard, he made his way directly to the main hall of the Ascendant clan's office, the Integrity Tower. After entering the hall, and after a brief announcement of his arrival, Li Yuxuan ascended to the 7th floor, where he encountered both his direct superior and their superior above them. Duang Nian offered a brief nod in recognition, while the delicate-looking man seemed disinterested as he gazed out at the distant scenery. Ji Yuyi. Li Yuxuan bowed at a 90-degree angle, embodying a demeanor of utmost respect. Just spoke of you, how fortunate to have found a new talent. Ji Yuyi smiled warmly. Huh? How fortunate to stumble upon a talent. Acknowledging Xu Qi'an to such a degree. But I haven't even informed about his initial success in circulating his energy for just 1 cycle. Confused, Li Yuxuan respectfully said, I would like to know the evaluation grade for Xu Qi'an, and I also have a small matter to report to you. Chapter 66. A sudden assignment. You've taken him under your wing, so you should assess his potential fairly, Gui Tianlin noted, his tone surprisingly gentle. But don't overthink it. Keep a calm heart and don't draw too much attention. Naturally, remember not a word to anyone. The first part eased Li Yuxuan's concerns, but the second made his thoughts whirl. What did he mean by, don't draw too much attention? Was he worried that Xu Qi'an would be undervalued, which might lead Li to dismiss him? But if that was the case, why caution against boasting? With Gui Tianlin's status, it seemed unlikely he'd feel the need to protect a minor like Xu Qi'an. Li Yuxuan frowned, struggling to decipher his superior's meaning. Gui Tianlin slid open a document and pushed it toward him. Go on, take a look. Li glanced down at the document and was met with 2 bright red characters. Top rank. He nearly lost his composure. Gui Tianlin. Top rank. How is that even possible? Having spent over a decade in the Guard, Li had never seen anyone rated at top rank. Even the talent classified merely as gold had barely scraped by. What kind of prodigy was Xu Qi'an? No wonder Gui was so intent on keeping this under wraps. If word got out, they might well endanger the young man. Moreover, Li recognized an oddity. The evaluation process had 3 stages: intellect, strength, and spirit. Xu Qi'an was in the refinement stage and shouldn't have qualified for a combat assessment at all. This meant he'd earned his top rank on the basis of just 2 evaluations. If he further excelled in qi breathing, His rank would undoubtedly exceed Gui Tianlin's set criteria. Was it possible that Gui would create an entirely new ranking category just for him? As this thought simmered, Li Yuxuan felt a warm flush of excitement. Gui Tianlin withdrew the document, speaking nonchalantly. "Keep this to yourself. Do you have anything else to report?" Li let out a breath he didn't know he was holding, searching for just the right words. "I helped Xu Qi'an open the celestial gate. By standard practice, that should net him 400 taels. Return it to him," Gui Tianlin stated flatly. A talent rated top rank deserved special resources, and to charge him for opening the celestial gate would completely undermine that designation. Li Yuxuan inclined his head in acknowledgement. "There's more to his potential, isn't there? How many cycles did it take for you to sense his aura?" The soft-spoken man's curiosity was piqued as he observed Li intently. "1 cycle," Li replied, carefully scrutinizing the faces of the 3 superiors around him. Their reactions were telling. The normally stoic Yang Yan twitched, a rare expression of shock flickering across his features. The quiet and calculating man regarded Li with cold suspicion, smirking as he said, "That's impossible." His response was the most intense among them. Even Gui Tianlin, known for his gentleness, seemed momentarily unsettled. Li Yuxuan lowered his gaze, a smile creeping onto his face as he savored their astonishment. "All right, you can go," Gui Tianlin said, watching Li walk away before turning back to his 2 trusted aides. "Thoughts?" Yang Yan pondered for a moment. "Does he need special attention?" Gui Tianlin shook his head. "There's no need to rush things. Let's wait and see." He turned to the cold young man. "Your potential is close to his right now. He may not surpass you, but who knows what the future holds? Use this as motivation." The beautiful young man nodded slightly. As Li Yuxuan exited the hall, he ran into several guards on his way. "Lord Li, what's got you smiling like that?" one of them teased. Li instinctively raised a hand to his face, only to realize his grin was wide enough to reach his ears. "Oh, it's nothing," he waved off, laughter bubbling up as he continued down the corridor. Meanwhile, Xu Qi'an had sent a messenger home but remained at the guard hall, diligently meditating and manipulating his energy. He clearly felt how this practice invigorated him, making him more alert and powerful than ever before. This extraordinary state lasted until dusk, marking the conclusion of the benefits he received from entering the qi breathing stage. "I feel like I could take on 10 versions of my former self," he thought, recalling his recent spar with his uncle. The old man hadn't been serious at all, pretending to give Xu a fair chance, but if he had unleashed his true strength, Xu knew he'd have been finished on the spot. With that realization, Xu punched the air, sending gusts of wind swirling around him. He hadn't felt this invigorated in months. Channeling energy into his fists, he struck the ground, just above the earth. Boom! The ground roared in response, cracking like shattered glass in every direction, sending dirt flying. Back at the Xu household, Xu Tan paced restlessly in the back hall, a storm brewing behind his furrowed brow. Xu Pingzi sat in silence, a grim expression etched on his face. Their mother, Tham, watched her eldest daughter wring her dress nervously, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Stop pacing. You're giving me a headache," Tham snapped at her son, turning her gaze to her husband. "Any word? Let's wait for news." "The guards took him, they're doing nothing, which is likely the safest course," Xu Erlang replied in a low voice. Tham bit her lip, suddenly slamming her foot on the ground. "You'd be better off making connections than just waiting here." Xu Tan frowned. "What connections? We don't even know why they took him. Now's not the time for rash decisions. Always knowing how to stir the pot, aren't you?" Tham scolded, her clenched fist hidden in her sleeve. Just then, old Zhang, the doorman, burst in without ceremony. Master, the eldest son sent word. Xu Qi'an was the first to move, and the entire household rose from their seats, anticipation palpable in the air. Xu Lingyue dashed out of the room, anxiety etched across her features. Old Zhang paused at the threshold. He's become a guard. He won't return home tonight, so there's no need to worry. A guard. Xu Pingzi and Xu Tan exchanged confused glances. Two of Xu Qi'an's colleagues led him to their workspace, handing him an ill-fitting uniform, a badge, a bronze gong, and a specially crafted longsword. Tailored gear will take a few days, one of them, Song Dingfeng, said between bites of a snack. That gong serves two main purposes. First, strapped to your chest, it acts as a shield, capable of absorbing a full-force strike from a spirit refining expert. Secondly, striking it releases a sonic shockwave that can disorient enemies, causing confusion or headaches. It was standard fare, but the protective charm his friend Tong Khan had gifted him could withstand 3 such attacks from a spirit refining expert. Ah, this has to be an upgraded version, Xu Qi'an thought, genuinely surprised. Crafted by the Bureau of Celestial Records. Of course, Tong Dingfeng responded. Only a 4th-tier array master from the Bureau can forge such artifacts. Tomorrow, report for duty at the designated time. The captain said you'll be joining us from now on. A small guard team consists of at least 2 members but can go up to 4 each tasked with overseeing different areas of the capital. Normally, we rotate every 3 days. Recently, Hu and I just finished our night watch, meaning we'll have day duty for the next 3 days. What area do we oversee? Asked Xu Qi'an, slightly apprehensive about night shifts. Those were notoriously unkind. We'll each get assigned to different areas on rotation, ensuring no one can scout territories to exploit. Tong Dingfeng chuckled lightly, like stealing money or flowers. It's rare, but we must remain vigilant. Xu Qi'an nodded knowingly. No profession is free from its share of scoundrels. A fellow officer rushed into the room. Tong, Chu, Li, the captain calls for you. Xu Qi'an's looking for us, his companion quipped. Following the 2 colleagues, Xu Qi'an made his way to Li Yuxuan's office. Each officer had their own workspace, known as roots, and it was customary to refer to sitting in one's office as sitting on the court to dispense judgment. Typically, the officers wouldn't venture out for patrol. That duty belonged to the smaller teams. Li Yuxuan's office was named Spring Breeze Hall, meticulously organized, with a fresh scent that lingered pleasantly in the air. The paperwork was so neatly arranged it seemed almost ceremonial. Each detail was perfectly aligned, down to the identical porcelain cups and flower pots. Li Yuxuan, a true master of menial details, sat at the desk, reviewing a file. There's been a reported sighting of a demonic creature in Mount Dai Huang by the Tai Kong district. It has claimed several lives. You're to investigate. Should the creature pose a low threat, eliminate it immediately. The personnel from the 6th Bureau are already waiting outside to assist you. Understood, Xu Qi'an replied, clearly excited. I'll go. This is a perfect opportunity for hands-on experience. Since I'm unranked for assessments, I see this as real combat. Demonic creatures. He was barely settling into his role, and he was already faced with such a challenge. Was he truly fortunate or perhaps just cursed? Chapter 67 Case Analysis. The capital city was flanked by 2 districts, Taikong and Changming. Tong Dingfeng unfurled a dossier as Xu Qi'an and Zhou Guangshou stood beside him, peering intently at the contents. The report detailed a troubling incident. to the north of Taikong District loomed the towering Da Huang Mountain 1,000 paces tall with a ridge stretching over 10 miles. Riddled with limestone deposits. It supported hundreds of thousands of quarry workers who mined the precious stone. However, since mid-year, a creature had emerged from one of the mountain streams, often leaping ashore to snatch unsuspecting quarry workers. Many had already gone missing. This report is lacking in specifics, Xu Qi'an said after scanning the document. I'll need to conduct my own investigation to fill in the gaps. Li Yuxuan, observing them all, spoke up seriously. Xu Ningyan, your broadsword should ride higher by at least 2 inches. The bronze belt trinket you've affixed is off-center by an inch to the left. Tong Dingfeng raised an eyebrow, while Xu Qi'an shot back. You're being unreasonable, this is just a matter of personal preference. As they stepped out of the Xu clan's residence, Xu Qi'an felt something solid crunch under his foot. He bent down instinctively to retrieve it and froze. It was a silver coin heavier than it should be. Let's go, Tong Dingfeng urged, glancing back. Right, Xu Qi'an replied, tucking the coin away and hurrying to catch up. Inside the hall, Li Yuxuan rummaged through her purse and frowned as she pulled out a handful of loose silver. Counting vigorously, she grimaced. I'm missing 3 coins. A notorious spendthrift, losing any amount of money left him visibly distressed. The 3 soon crossed the threshold of the courthouse where they encountered the officers from the Jingguo prefecture waiting outside. 3 figures greeted them, 2 young men flanking a determined woman. The attire of these officers bore a striking resemblance to Xu Qi'an's own. All clad in black with red trim. But instead of the arrest insignia, a majestic beast spirit adorned their vests. One was a Qi refinement practitioner. The other 2 were at the spirit refinement level. Xu Qi'an observed them with interest, his gaze settling on the leader, a woman who clasped her hands in greeting. Esteemed sirs, I'm Lu Cheng. I've sent for a carriage. Let's discuss this matter inside. Traveling by horseback was a swift affair, but a carriage provided them with the space to converse without haste. The officers from Jingguo commanded respect, and though they approached the 3 with deference, Lu Qing maintained a down-to-earth manner, devoid of arrogance or flattery. A spacious carriage awaited them by the roadside, roomy enough to accommodate all 6 without discomfort. The 3 bureaucrats occupied one side, while Lu Qing and her companions took the other well-defined roles. Tong Dingfeng smiled and introduced himself, along with Zhou Guangshou and Xu Qi'an. You're likely familiar with this man. He was locked up due to the previous silver tax case. The officers scrutinized Xu Qi'an carefully. Lu Qing's gaze brightened. I've admired your reputation for some time. The silver tax case had run its course through the courthouse, and she clearly remembered Xu Qi'an's capabilities. She had often suggested that the Chief Justice invite him back for a position within the office. Sitting opposite them, Xu Qi'an chuckled modestly while appraising Lu Cheng. It was rare to find a woman leading a team of officers. Particularly one as striking as her, a woman of the Da Feng dynasty who didn't confine herself to household affairs. Lu Cheng was likely in her 30s, with thick brows that conveyed strength and a sturdy posture, suggesting the modest bindings of her chest. At this moment, it struck Xu Qi'an why the case concerning the silver tax hadn't been handed over to the Justice Ministry. In hindsight, it seemed the Justice Minister and the Minister of Civil Affairs had conspired to keep it hidden. I find this report overly simplistic, Xu Qi'an began, and it lacks clarity on many details. Since this issue was first raised in your office, let's exchange information. Tong Dingfeng continued, what exactly did the creature do? It first appeared on the 6th of July, Lu Qing responded, her tone smooth and deliberate. Did anyone see its true form? He pressed. In the beginning, the quarry workers went missing frequently. When their families searched for them, they found claw marks and blood along the riverbank. As more workers vanished, Signs of claw marks proliferated along the shore. She explained. The village chief tried coordinating efforts with the workers to hunt down the creature. But with nets cast in the river, they weren't successful. The nets were torn to shreds. A water-dwelling creature, Xu Qi'an mused to himself. However, Tong Dingfeng remarked, his brow furrowing, if all of this started on July 6, why is it only being reported now? At first, it only preyed on the quarry workers. Because it didn't attack the villages, the district magistrate of Taikong turned a blind eye. It wasn't until the casualties escalated that he dispatched a team with the workers to try and hunt the creature. But it yielded no results, Lu Qing explained, glancing at Xu Qi'an. But then the magistrate grew disillusioned, she added. He no longer wanted to engage frankly. He tried to sweep it under the rug. Zhou Guangshou interjected, so what prompted the report now? Lu Qing paused thoughtfully. The workers stopped going into the mountains to mine, but the taxes still had to be collected. They had no other choice but to detour and approach the mountains, avoiding the river. The result was not what they expected. Over 20 of them ascended the mountain, and not one came back, she concluded. A heavy silence settled over the group. Tap. Tap. Xu Qi'an knocked softly against the armrest, breaking the spell. He turned to the officers from Jingguo. Do you have a map of Dahuang Mountain and the surrounding villages? We do. Not knowing the creature's strength, we intended to scout ahead ourselves, leaving the quarry workers behind to prevent any unforeseen incidents, Lu Qing replied. An officer beside her produced a map from his cloak. Taking the map, Xu Qi'an unfurled it slowly to reveal part of Dahuang Mountain's towering range. I have a theory, he began, before pausing dramatically. It may be worth sharing. Everyone in the carriage turned to him, intrigued. Tong Dingfeng's eyes gleamed with anticipation. Lu Qing sat up straighter. Please, go on. It seems this creature's attacks on the populace follow a pattern. It appears there's purpose behind its actions. This may not merely be a case of a rampaging beast, Xu Qi'an deduced. Lu Qing arched an eyebrow. Her interest piqued. Why do you say that? Initially, it only targeted the quarry workers near the riverbanks. Then, as it grew bolder, it expanded its range, moving further inland and even up the mountain to snatch more quarry workers. This isn't simply a creature hunting for food. Consider this. The river from Dahuang Mountain stretches hundreds of miles. It teems with fish and crustaceans. Naturally, wild animals choose their prey based on the environment, not personal preference. If food were abundant nearby, it wouldn't risk venturing far from safety just to hunt. He continued, now, if this creature possesses intelligence, setting it apart from a common beast, and prefers human flesh, then surely it notices the villages. Yet it only targets those quarry workers approaching Dahuang Mountain. This suggests a form of territorial rejection. Territorial rejection? Lu Qing pondered, her eyes narrowing. Before Xu Qi'an could elaborate, Tong Dingfeng interjected, no, if it were intelligent, it wouldn't claim its territory this way. To occupy land so close to the capital city, that's tantamount to courting disaster. But if it were just a vicious beast, then it wouldn't exhibit any behavior suggesting territoriality. Lu Qing's expression shifted as she considered this, her pupils narrowing. There's something on Dahuang Mountain that it's protective of. An awkward silence enveloped the carriage as the group turned their attention to the implications of her statement. Something dark and enigmatic lay hidden within the heart of the mountain, waiting to be uncovered.
Thanks for listening till the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter.